Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Steve Johnson. I'm the town engineer in the town of Yarmouth, but thank you for the promotion to town engineer. I appreciate that, although it's not quite accurate. So I want to welcome all of you to the Cousins Island Safety Way public meeting. We appreciate you all coming out here in this squalid, hot evening to come here into some air conditioning. We're here to talk about the project, and we're planning to renew the Safety Way all the way from the bridge to Wharf Road. And we need your help. So we'd like to have some of your input. So before we get too far along, I want to introduce Jenna Berry. She's a lead engineer with CV Mahar Engineers, and also Dan Diffin, who's over here. He's another one of the lead engineers for CV Mahar out of Cumberland that has that's going to be helping us out with the design on this project. So thanks to both of them for coming. Little housekeeping, please, if you could sign in on the sign-in sheet so we can track who's here and get information out to you as we need to. There's a bathroom, if you don't know the log cabin very well, right over here to my right. And also, so you know, this meeting is going to be recorded for future reference. So just for folks to know. So the goals tonight is, again, we want to provide a very brief overview of the project, its limits, its work scopes. We also want to ultimately solicit feedback from you folks that live in the neighborhood. You live, work, and play there. I mean, you really know the site, and solicit feedback from you folks on what we need to be considering as we go through the design for this project. So Jenna has a wonderful PowerPoint presentation pulled up, and following that, we'll come over here as we were, and we'll talk through all these drawings, and we'll also take questions. What is it?
Quick question: is it on channel 2 now, or is it going to be?
It's going to be projected. It's not. It's just being recorded. It's not currently live. So, good question. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jenna and take it away. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. So like Steve mentioned, Jenna Berry, civil engineer. This is going to be very brief. We know you're all very familiar with Cousins Island. We know why you're here. So we hope to have most of our conversation in front of the table to get input from you and hopefully answer any of your questions and get some of your concerns and take notes for us to bring into our design. We're currently at concept level, and this is pre-design, so just so you know, we'll be just taking input from you tonight. I'll run through this brief presentation here. As we were talking to some of you quickly, we do want to improve pedestrian safety. We know that the sidewalk's been in for a long time and it's not in the best condition, so that's really the main goal. We want to bring it to ADA standards. We want to do all we can to improve the crosswalks and add in safe crosswalks to each point of intersection there to make it safer for you all living on the island. We want to maintain and add grass where possible. I know that some grass is not currently on every portion of the sidewalk and the road, but we want to add grass and maintain grass where possible. We also want to improve drainage. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of puddles and ice, and it's not very safe in a lot of areas. So we want to improve that for you all. Like Steve mentioned, we're going to extend the safety way up to the bridge. So there's safe crossing across from the beach into the existing sidewalk now. So I'm sure you're very familiar, but you know, the sidewalk's very cracked and there's a lot of obstacles. There's trees growing in the way, there's rock walls, and there's other obstacles, steep grades. It can be challenging for folks that are older with disabilities, so we are fully understanding of that. We want to improve grade and make it flatter for you all. Where we have those crosswalks, we do want to have safe landings for those with wheelchairs and anybody with disabilities. We do want to widen the sidewalk. I know some of it's narrow, but some of it is 6 feet wide now. So just so you know, it will be widened. We will probably be adding curb over the entire length to improve drainage. I know one of you mentioned there's a lot of roots growing underneath the sidewalk there, so that's a picture of that right there. So like I mentioned briefly before, this is at the concept level. We're pre-design. This is a couple of cross sections from similar projects. We don't necessarily think there's going to be trees and landscaping along the entire esplanade, is what it's called, between the road and the sidewalk. But we do want to add grass where we can, but we understand we might not be able to everywhere. And just as long as you're understanding of that, then I think we can move on and answer any of your questions and get some of your input any drainage concerns or concerns with obstacles, or if you have any questions about what we just presented, then you can please shoot off, or we can move over to the table.
So,
Does he need that?
So I'm going to hand, John, hit me.
Why 6 feet?
Okay, so the question is why 6 feet? So Jenna, do you want to answer that or you want me to?
You can answer that. I know that it's probably a town standard.
It is.
Steve?
So, yes. So we found over the years that 6 feet really is kind of the best width to be able to provide enough room for a couple people walking strollers and when they're passing. The old standard was 5 feet, and so that was a little tight. And so our Bike and Ped Committee, many of you may have heard about them, that's been a clear design wish that all new town sidewalks have that little extra width just to make sure that we have enough width for folks to pass with strollers or 2 or 3 walking side by side and make that the new standard.
What's the timing? When is this going to happen?
Excellent question. So, Jenna and Dan will be working on this through the summertime and the fall. My hope is that we'll get a design pretty close to the fall, that we can get it out to bid in the fall, and then in the springtime, hopefully start constructions of next year. That's generally our time frame and goal. So, Yes, Donna.
I have a couple questions.
Sure. Make them easy.
One's labeling. A couple of years, and I want to preface this why I'm asking this. A couple of years ago, I asked somebody on the sidewalk committee about the sidewalk up to Cousins Island, and they had no idea that we had a sidewalk. So my question is, I have seen labels: sidewalk, safety way, walkway. So what is the sidewalk or safety way or whatever it is out there? What is the term for that? And do these terms, does the town approach these terms in different ways? In other words, about the upkeep.
Excellent question. I'm going to let Jenna answer that question. No, I'm kidding. I'm
know
kidding. I'm
that's
kidding,
a hard
Jenna.
one.
No, honest to God, the truth is, I'm not sure how it became the safety way. Maybe some of the other folks in the room might be able to answer that. But as far as the approach to maintenance, the approach to having it on our inventory and our capital work, it would be managed just like any one of our other sidewalks and regular walking paths. So it really is, it just has been long in the tooth and hasn't seen a lot of capital work, as I'm sure you all know. So it has come to the forefront, and we now have money in the capital program. But it would have the same maintenance and the same designation as any other walkways, just like the Beth Condon path or any of the other connectors that are in town. And a second one? No, I won't forget you.
Crosswalks. I heard you mention a crosswalk
Yes, ma'am.
associated to the beach. But the safety way, the walkway, whatever it is,
Sure.
is it's long from the beach to Madeline Point. I would like to see some crosswalks other than at just that place.
Oh, that's what we're talking about, for sure.
Okay.
Every intersection that you have along that road, okay, a formal intersection that would be either a private road or a public road, that's what we're talking about for the crosswalks. So I'm not sure if Jenna may have mentioned maybe crossing the entrance of camps of Sandy Point Beach. But we're talking specific crosswalks of Cousins from the sidewalk across to the public or private roads across Cousins.
Okay, and like Tinkersfield and Madeline Point.
Correct. Yes, and I don't remember. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember right now any of the roads that are on the opposite side. But anyway, I'm sure Dan's going to give me a hard time about
Tidewater.
that.
Yeah, some of them.
All those. So yes, sir.
I can answer that. I think it's up, go back to it, I think you can remember. It's called the safety way because in 1970,
Whatever.
no. When the plant was being built, a group of us on Cousins Island went to the town to ask for a sidewalk to be done. And we learned that the word sidewalk wasn't getting reception.
Good point.
So we decided to call it a safety, because we wanted it because of the traffic, the traffic that was on the island during plant construction. So a group of us got together and we renamed it Safety Path for purposes of town meeting when it went up for a vote.
Excellent. So that was the sizzle of the project.
That was
the sizzle, the safety way. Excellent. Thank you for that history. Yes, sir.
My name is John Corbett. I live at 294 Cousin Street, and this is about drainage. About 15 or 20 years ago, the town sent me a registered letter telling me that they were replacing all the culverts from the bridge to Seal Lane. I happen to live on the east side of Cousin Street, if you think of Cousins going north-south. So I live on, and I'm really the only house that would be affected. They did not replace my culvert. So the sidewalk between my house and the Shelton's property at 304 is a vernal pool whenever it rains.
Sure.
So if you're looking at for drainage issues, you want to, and I had Eric Street come out and look at it, and he said, we didn't know there was a culvert here. And, you know, he said, when you replace your driveway, we'll come. But, you know.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. After we break for our formal questions and answer period, come on up and we'll mark it down on the plans. We'll take a look at it and see what we can do to address it as part of the project.
Issue, if you're going to be looking at it, is that this is relates to the town. On the other side of the driveway, there's a rather steep drop. So you may wish to do something because your snow plow or the sidewalk plow has gone off there several times.
See, these are the
It is an issue because someone has to come and pull it out, and then no one comes back to fill the holes left by the sidewalk in the ground. So I have to go to Walmart and buy topsoil to fill it.
Oh, well, I'm sorry you had to do that. And thank you for that little tip. I give the Public Works Director a hard time. So, he's wonderful. So after the meeting, though, if you could please come up with us and we'll go through all those details, because those are the kinds of things that we need to know when Jenna and Dan are working through the design of this project, because that's the point of this meeting. So thank you.
The second point is I'm one of the regular walkers, and while the entire safety way needs to be replaced, there is a difference between the condition of the sidewalk from Talbot Road to Wharf Road. It's large sections of it do not exist, and that's where most of the children live, and a large number of other older people live, as opposed to from the bridge to Sea Meadow. And by the way, as a regular walker, I spoke with someone from the DOT the other day who informed me that the bridge is going to be replaced in 5 to 7 years. And so let's not waste an enormous amount of money trying to figure out how it's connecting to this bridge if there's it's going to be changed.
So, well, that's a different topic, which I can, after this, we'll talk about. But anyway, sir, you had a question.
Yes, I live at the end of that section, 548 Cousin Street. My name's Jacob Bordeaux. I'm also an engineer. It's a nice project you got here. I have a lot of different things there. Coming off the bridge is very wide. It seems the right of way between there and the forest, if you will. Near me, we have a lot of trees that are pretty much right next to the sidewalk. We also have this nice old 100-year-old stone wall there.
Sure.
That with 6 feet wide might be encroaching maybe even on that rock wall. So that's something to consider. But the biggest thing for me is the drainage through there, which you did say you're going to try and address. Most of that road from the stop sign to my walkway to my house drains right into my house.
Sure.
So hopefully
so
you can tilt it the other way, add some catch basins and some piping somewhere.
I'm glad you said that, because we are. That, we did. Please do, because we would like to have that over here. But yeah, we are planning to include drainage in this project, and we are, to answer you, sir, is that, again, we're doing the whole length. So we're not going to prioritize one section over the other. It's the whole length. I hope we have enough
Also
money.
on that, you did mention the topsoil, which sounds good because you gotta get the grass to come back to meet your erosion control regulations, right?
That will happen.
Right now, that soil doesn't grow anything really.
No doubt. I'm sure of it. You know, the salt gets hammered. Yeah, sure. That will help with the curbing and such. So, sir, you had a question?
Go back to the map while you're answering your questions.
Absolutely.
I think I just want to establish it's going from where to where. So, where's it
Bridge
starting?
down.
So basically, here's the bridge.
So you're going to connect the sidewalk?
Yep. Yes. Now, barring the question whoever mentioned about the bridge, but anyway, we're proposing to go all the way over here down the wharf.
So Steve, you have parking on a sidewalk at that first elbow on top of that, start of that pathway for the beach, I guess.
Yeah.
There's no sidewalk there, it's just,
Correct.
that's where cars park.
On the street?
On the street?
Well, they'll have to find parking area because, yeah. So I'll take a ride through during a hot summer day, but today's would have been the day to go, yeah.
Today it was bad.
Busy?
Yeah.
You're gonna go all the way to Wharf, it looks like, is that right?
Correct. Yep, this is Wharf.
Now, I don't walk around as much as John does, but I heard a rumor that at every crosswalk, you're gonna have those flashing lights.
No. No. So at every intersection, we're,
100% none? Like none?
so I doubt that those are called RRFBs, and I doubt that they'd meet the warrants for that in this particular application. And they're expensive. So, and a maintenance nightmare. So I anticipate that we likely won't see any of those in this particular segment of sidewalk. Now, there are more appropriate locations for those, like at Princess Point and Route 88, of course. Over here at the school, there are appropriate places for them, but I don't see in this segment that it would really warrant that kind of infrastructure. Now,
I asked because
The surveyor, well, I spoke to a surveyor who said that they were surveying out there, said that they were going to be having lighted crosswalks, you know, press it up.
never, ever listen to a surveyor about design. I know them all, and I know the ones you're talking to, because I hired him. He's wrong. What we are going to do, though, is as Jenna mentioned, we're going to have crosswalks, and so they'll include a sign package. Part of the standards for an ADA accessible crosswalk is that you need to have, the green signs with the little person walking, pointing here. That's what he may have been referring to, but okay. So I don't know what his problem is, but that's not happening.
So also, Steve, I think one of the characters that we enjoy are the trees we walk through on the sidewalk.
Well, I think
The roots go right in.
I can't say that.
Don't raise it.
Yeah.
The roots don't put it at the same level. The roots are
Yeah.
gonna-
Well, I'm going to leave that to Jenna and
I can answer
Dan.
that really briefly, but we are going to look at all of the trees that are encroaching on the sidewalk, to be frank. The trees that do have roots in the sidewalk are probably going to have to go. I don't think they would survive that kind of reconstruction to that, 1.5 feet of depth. So they would probably need to go, unfortunately. I know it does provide a lot of shade, and we'll try to keep trees where possible. But if it's not possible to do the type of grades and slope fills that we need to do, they will probably have to be cut down.
So I'm going to follow up with Jenna's comment about that. We do have a superstar tree arborist. His name is Scott Couture. And so I'll ask Jenna to weigh in. When we get to the point that we might have to take down trees, we'll have Scott come out and evaluate. It may be that potentially the roots that might need to be cut could potentially not impact the whole tree. I don't know. I'm not an arborist. But we'll have our town arborist work with Jenna at those discrete locations to make sure we can try to do as much as we possibly can to try and save as many. But like I said, I think there will possibly be some that might have to go. Again, it's a pretty significant construction. So
Question is this,
the bonus question is my favorite.
but why is that the ADA standard as well? Or is the ADA standard less than 6 feet?
The actual width is less. It can be as narrow as what, like 42 or something? As little as 3 feet? Yeah. Yeah, it could be narrower. It could.
Generous.
It is. It is.
It's
It's
more of a
not quite a
town standard.
multi-use path, but, all right, so,
Right now, there's no curbing from where the road ends and the safety way is. There are some places there might be 8 inches from the road to where the safety way is. And, the car basically could go over it, go on the safety way.
Sure.
Is anything going to be done to that to differentiate between the walkway and the road?
excellent question. I'll let Jenna handle that one.
Yeah, so like Steve and I have been saying, we think there's going to be curb along the entire stretch. And so with the curb there, we'll be able to protect the sidewalk that is very close to the road. Since it will be raised, it will block tires much better than a couple inches of sand.
Just to clarify, the curb's going to be on the road.
Well, we haven't specified exactly if we're going to have 2 sections of curb or 1 section of curb. I think it's going to depend on each section.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of traffic issue is this going to cause while there's construction going? Like, is this going to be 2 weeks worth of hell trying to get from one end of the island to the other? Or what kind of, I mean, we just gone through a lot of traffic issues with what's been going on in Yarmouth.
Sure.
I'd like to know what to anticipate.
Sure. Excellent. You or me?
I would let you answer that.
Sure. Well, it's going to be longer than 2 weeks. Dan will attest to that. So the good thing about it is going to be in the shoulder. So I think as far as traffic goes, you're going to be able to keep at least one lane open through there. So you might have to, there might be a work zone where you have to stop and wait and go through. But generally speaking, I think it's going to be a construction zone. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as what we experienced last year when the water main was being installed over on Lafayette Street. So, but there will be traffic impacts. There's no question about that. Probably. At least 2 months, I would say. Depends on how they want to construct it. It might be starting in the spring potentially. You might want to start middle summer. You know, it would depend on the contractual language.
Won't be the whole way.
There'll be discrete segments.
The island is good.
Yeah, there'll be discrete segments.
Pass your house, you're all set.
True.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Carol Hammerling, 159 Pleasant Street. The more I'm listening, the less of the island feel is going to happen. I don't like hearing about all the curving because I see what it's done to Main Street now. So I hope that it's not the full length. I hope it's not double curving. And I
So-
talk to other people who
Sure.
feel the same way that I do, that
Sure.
Yeah, we understand.
Sure.
There's-
So the reason behind the curb mostly, right, is to provide a barrier for pedestrians. So where you have the sidewalk that's right next to the curb, you have to have it by design standards, okay? Now, there is an opportunity that if you have a wide esplanade, right, and you can get that distance away from the traffic lane, then you could potentially get away from that. So I think we can look at locations where we can have enough width. We can maintain potentially a segment that might not have curb because, again, curb is expensive. And I think that it may not necessarily be warranted the entire length. But I think each segment will be looked at so that we can make the right design decision for that particular segment. Are you the one that sent me the letter? Yes. Thank you. Yes, I haven't had a chance to respond, but I will. It's rare I get letters in the U.S. Postal Service. Yes, sir.
Back to that kind of similar comment where there might be, you know, the road could be 2-3 feet higher than the existing sidewalk down by my house, really, and there's not that much width. Would you guys be considering like retaining walls to lower the sidewalk and keep the road where it is?
Well, I don't want to speak for.
Seems like a pretty expensive option there.
It would be.
I don't want to necessarily cramp Jenna's design juices, but you know, I think there might be all options on the table because again, we need to make the width, we need to meet ADA standards, and so I think that we'll have to look at whatever discrete segment might need a particular solution.
So the 6 foot is kind of one of the design standards that you're really targeting.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
Yes, sir.
minimum slopes. I'm sorry to cut you off. So fill might be needed to avoid, you know, a structural wall. So we will probably be looking at each area, like Steve was saying, in a unique way. There's going to be a lot of challenges, and we understand that. But we do want to probably use fill instead of retaining walls wherever possible, because like Steve said, it's a cost concern. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sir, in the back.
Yeah, the more I hear about curves, the more I get confused and concerned. The notion that there should be a curve either on the road or on the safety path the entire way makes no sense. One of the reasons it makes no sense, and this ties into another question in my mind, is the word bikes was used when we were talking about construction of this. And bikers, I think, should not be on that safety path at all. Then I thought, where do I see bikers on the safety path? Little guys.
Yeah.
Well, now it's old ones too. Well, not two of them. What? Having a curve on the safety path, especially, I'm down the starting. But having a curve on the safety path there, when little kids are riding their bikes, I think it's dangerous. It's not a good idea. So, and then then I want to get to the width. So I think that should be on the table for much more comment and thought. The other one is the width of it. And I can understand very much down your end, maybe the width can be 4 feet. It doesn't need to be 5 or 6.
Potentially, sure.
And likewise, I don't see a need, and I haven't talked to anybody about this, but I think a 6-foot wide one, so that people can walk by each other, takes away some of the friendship that we have on the island, because as you're coming up to see somebody, you stop and talk, or if there's a jogger on the path, we just step off and let the jogger have it right away. It's not a big deal. And to pay 6 feet where it goes against the sense of the island troubles me. I'd like to go out in front of our house and see what 6 feet means, because whatever it is up in front of our house, that's more than enough. And it lets kids ride their bikes. The last thing about the barriers, the curbs, is if they're on the road. Can't wait, Steve, for the snow plows to get out.
Oh, plow operators love curb. Can you go back to the typical sections, please?
What kind of curbing we can use? A concrete?
Yes, it would be the standard. Get the typicals. Just so we're all clear. All right. So when we're talking about curbs, right? This is a cross section. So if you were to take the sidewalk and just cut it across the middle and then peel the earth away, you're looking at it at the end. So when we say a curb, this would be denoted the curb. It would provide, and here would be the traffic going this way, and then people would be walking up in here. So that's what that curb is. And it would be in the road shoulder to provide a barrier so cars couldn't drive onto the sidewalk area or the walkway area. So I just want to be sure people are clear that that's what we're talking about. It's not like everywhere on that walkway, even off in the Esplanade up beyond Sea Meadows, that you're just going to be a curb laid on the side. It strictly is a barrier over here.
Well, that would be only from Sea Meadows to the ridge, where it's higher.
Correct, but wherever over here in, say, down in even your area, if we had to, because we also need to provide drainage so that we're not shipping water off into the and off the shoulder, and that's what that provides an opportunity for that water to stay there.
That's what I thought, is when you're talking about the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible just to do a ramp, just like a wooden walkway? It goes up a foot, goes over the roots, comes back.
It's a great consideration, but it's just not going to be ADA accessible most likely if we were to do a ramp like that. There are slopes and lengths that are needed, and even materials that are needed to meet ADA accessibility for a ramp.
So the lady in the back, you had a question a long time ago. I want to make sure I get to you.
Yeah, I'm Debbie Woodbury. I live on Poggy Shore, the end of
Sure.
Park Road.
Yes.
There's so much ferry traffic on Wharf. Have you ever thought about a sidewalk there? Because I'm a big walker too. I always, and it's really scary walking on Wharf
Sure,
Road. When
sure.
Cars come flying there.
Yeah.
But nowhere near as scary as walking on Talbot Road. I mean, that's
Yeah. Well,
I wonder if that was.
as everybody knows here, we all have limited scopes of money and time and effort. So that has not been brought to me necessarily. Doesn't mean it hasn't been talked about. I'm sure it's been talked about a lot on the island. Probably it's certainly not in the current 5-year capital improvement plan. The town does our large projects management on a 5-year window. Other things do 10 or 12, depending on what it is. So that currently is not on that particular window. Now, doesn't mean that some things can't be done. You may be familiar with some of the work that's been done on, I think it's Morton Road, where they do what's called the advisory striping. That may be an option potentially. I would strongly suggest that you attend the next Bike and Ped Committee meeting and bring that up, because they are very energized. They're a wonderful bunch of folks, and those are the kinds of things that they would love to hear from you about what is needed. What they'll do is they'll take that information and they'll come see Eric Street, our Public Works Director. They'll come see our Planning Director, Aaron Zwerko, and they'll see me. And then we can formulate that into our capital improvement plan to have those projects funded. Yes, Donna. I'll get back to you. Don't worry. Go ahead, Donna.
I'm in favor of the 6-foot walkway. I recently have moved to the main road, and I am noticing many people walking together with multiple dogs, and it would be very difficult to walk on that walkway if you got it down to 4 or 5 feet. I think the 6-foot width is wonderful for the many people who are using that walkway now. It's increased so much since COVID. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Sir.
One thing I want to bring up, when I was growing up, we didn't really have sidewalks, but for drainage, they just sloped up the asphalt a little bit rather than having a full
A berm, yeah.
curve with a drop. So maybe back to his comment, bikes going over it or next to it, you don't get that abrupt change, maybe it goes, just something to consider. It's probably not anywhere in your standards for the town, but down by me, I'm thinking that the curb is for drainage to keep water from running onto the property rather than separating the two, which that'll do. Curb there, if you actually filled it up, 2 or 3 feet, you'd be able to use the curb in that.
Great. Sir.
Yeah, I'd like to get more of a general consensus from everybody on 6-foot width. My feeling is 6 foot's an overkill. I mean, maybe there's certain areas for 6 feet, but generally for the whole standard, I think 6 feet is an overkill for Cousins Island.
What width do you think is reasonable?
Well, it's 5 foot now, which mostly is 5 foot. I think 5 foot would work.
Varies.
Even more general question brought up by that. Are you going to have many more meetings such as this, sort of this part A, part B is, I think would be helpful to, because I haven't talked to anybody about it.
Sure.
I have no idea how much.
Sure.
But
So,
I think that a questionnaire going to people on the island about the width of the path would be a very good idea.
okay. So as far as additional public meetings, did we budget for 1 or 2? There's one more. Okay, so we have at least one more budgeted. So I think that we'll typically, not always, but typically. So we have an initial meeting where we come in, we get this great input, which we're thank God we're recording it. So we'll be able to simulate all this. And then once you get to about 60% design, right, that's where we've generated some of the construction drawings. We have a good sense of what the grades are doing. We'll be able to show some of the infrastructure, the proposed drainage, where we think curb is reasonable, where we think it may not be, widths, all that good stuff. Then we would schedule a second public meeting and come back and kind of show you what we got. That still gives us an opportunity to kind of see where we're heading, but it gives an opportunity for us to make changes before we get to the real expensive part as during construction. And there it's a real expensive change. So that is generally what I think we'll do. And I think I saw Donna. Did you have another question?
No, I had a comment.
Okay.
If we're going to have another meeting, I think we, as a group, need to remember that the walkway isn't for the people on Cousins Island necessarily. And that there are a lot of people from other towns or inland, Maine part of Yarmouth, that use that walkway. And so we need to consider those. So when we plan a meeting, maybe there can be a notice to everybody so that we can get some input from people other than just Cousins Island.
Good call. We did notice it, though. We didn't send, like you guys all got letters because you're abutters, but we didn't, I can't really send it to everybody in the town.
No, this was found out about it word of mouth.
So,
Very few of us got letters.
so I sent letters to every abutter on the project. So if you faced on Cousins Road, you got a letter, or at least I sent one.
On the other side of the walkway?
Yes, both sides. Both sides. Both sides of the road.
I got one, I'm on the opposite side.
Yeah, I didn't send it down at, where do you guys live?
302, right? Walkway goes right in front of our house.
Interesting. Huh. And did you get one or not?
I did get one.
Okay. Somehow I must have missed you. I apologize. But anyway.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Why should it just be a butters? I just found out like late today that we're having this meeting.
Sure.
I don't live on Cousins, I live on
Oh, sure. Yeah. So really, it comes down to the ability to kind of provide the folks that really abut to the project. That's typically our standard protocol. So, again, we don't typically send out beyond a neighborhood to, the entire island because, although that is a major thoroughfare, it really comes down to cost. So, I think that that's generally how we've done it, and that's how we continue in this fashion. So, but anyway, I'm glad you're here because I think it provides some great input. And I apologize that the folks that are abutters did not get them. I'm not sure why. So,
A very reasonable sign would be a sign at the end of the island that there's a meeting. That's what they do for
oh yeah, yeah,
on the island.
sure.
And it doesn't cost anything to put a sign up.
Or on the town website.
I think it was on the website.
It's in the newsletter.
Yeah, in the newsletter.
The town newsletter.
Well, I'll tell you what. I can speak with Chief Gallant about using one of his variable message boards. Oh yeah. For the next one. How's that?
Good idea.
He's not doing nothing with him, so.
And you can discuss it out of community house.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. Yeah, sure. But here we have this, and we can record it.
Yeah.
Sir, you had a question?
I don't mean to put you both on the spot, but have you both walked the sidewalk?
Yes, not as many times as you folks, I'm sure. I'm sure.
There is a very different sidewalk. What goes on from the bridge to Sea Meadow Lane does have an esplanade.
It's very nice. It's very wide.
It can be whatever width you want. The speed limit changes at Sea Meadow Lane.
Yeah.
It becomes 25, and there are lots of children living further on. So that does pose an issue, especially if you widen that sidewalk too much. I am afraid, because I have been forced off the sidewalk by bicyclists, and I don't mean the little children, but by adults. Sometimes people who weigh 50 pounds more than I do. And it's really disturbing, and that's where a curb, it does pose another problem, because I did fall one time when I was forced off in the spring. So it's a concern, I think, to think maybe we have to view different sections different ways. So it might be wider for one place, and it may need to be much narrower down where Jake is.
I think we're considering.
Virtually, those two houses at the end by Wharf Road are almost on the road.
Okay. Thank you. Sure. Dan.
So I was getting tired of sitting down. So your point about interaction with bicycles is a really good one on a sidewalk, and I think the bike ped committees in most towns that we've worked in, that's why they recommend 6 feet or larger, is because of that interaction. Because 6 feet, it doesn't give you all the space you need, but the 6 feet with the esplanade and a flat area off to the outside gives you space and gives them space not to crash into you if they lose control and go off the pavement. So I understand the concern about the nature of the sidewalk, the safety way. Jen and I were actually out there yesterday in the 85-degree weather. It was a beautiful breeze, so it was actually kind of nice on the island. And noticed a lot of those areas with the trees were really nice features. And we will do what we can to protect that, but we also, the 6 foot is a standard for a pretty particular reason. And when we'll look at making it narrower, but I don't want to say that 4 feet is the right width out there from a safety standpoint. I just want to be careful with that.
Thank you, Dan. Daniel.
To what you said about at the beach, that they'll no longer be parking there.
Well, I don't know about that. I haven't seen it, so I got to go take a look. But yeah.
Like Donna said, it's not just for us on Cousins Island. So the beach, like today, it was kind of cool to see everybody out there. They were just everywhere. And the sidewalk is so far off from the road, starting at the beach, it starts heading off. You basically have a 6 foot bike lane, a white line painted. There's plenty of room to leave it the way it is and still do your 6 foot sidewalk if that's the width you go. But there's no more room in the parking lot unless you take some of the trees in the middle down, so I'd hate to lose the beach parking along the street.
Okay. Well, when we end this, come up. I want you to point it out to me on the drawings here. We'll sketch it.
The beach,
okay.
Dirt road, and it goes up until it kind of squeezes.
Gotcha.
It's my understanding that the parking lot is not owned by this
That's correct. That is correct. So CMP owns Sandy Point Beach, the parking facilities, and everything really outside the public right-of-way of Cousins. We are in the process right now of trying to get the lease re-upped for however long. It expired several years ago, and they just haven't been wanting to work with us. But we're making headway, I'm told. I'm not running that job. But we expect that that will be renewed, so then we would have right and title to maintain it, because there's been a lot of infrastructure impacts with the storms and such. So, but you are correct.
Need that lease to oversee the parking lot?
I'm not exactly sure. That is our wonderful rec director, Karen McNeil. She could tell you all about that. Unfortunately, I don't really have a clue, unfortunately. So.
There, I mean, even, I guess if it were sand, but if you paved into it, you could put a crosswalk, painted crosswalk there. People could still park next to it other than where the crosswalk is, right?
Well, we'll take a great look at that. I mean, I think that's I've heard it clear as a bell that is something that needs to be scrutinized in that particular area. So I think Jenna and Dan and myself will take a look at that. Sir.
My name is Jim Yarmouth. We're the second house when you come under the island, just right after the Camp Soci.
Sure.
Thinking about the Esplanade, last summer, the cars were parked in the Esplanade past our house.
So opposite your house or on your side of the road?
No, I'm in the Esplanade, on the other side of the road from our house,
Okay, so in between the shoulder and the driveway.
between the walkway and the road.
Okay.
On the grass is what you're
Alright.
saying.
There's not much grass.
From the tires, they probably. Yeah.
But, so keep that in mind as you're planning plants or plantings in the Esplanade. Down there would actually be very nice to have, independent of the traffic, but it gets crowded.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions?
I have one, and when we get to the map, I'll show it, but it's in front of their house. The property pin's right in the middle of the sidewalk. So if you go 6 inches outside of it, then go 6 feet. I don't know if you're going to maintain 24 feet or 22
Yeah.
feet for the road.
We'll have to take a look at it.
Are the property pins on your plan so that you really know what 6 plus 24 plus possibly an esplanade or not, where it affects the other side of the road?
We probably can't see the property pin, but we do have property lines on there. We'll circle that though, and we'll be able to look at it more closely in the survey that is a lot more closer up. So we'll be able to look at that. And we do realize that the sidewalk does, touch the property lines and the right of ways, and that could be a challenge.
We did pick up all the survey pins. So Owen Haskell, the surveyors, they were charged with picking up the right of ways and the pins and such. So I'm quite certain they picked that one up. So, but we'll have to look at that.
It looks like there's not going to be any esplanade, and the road might squeeze into the...
Yeah, I'm sure there are those situations. Any other questions, folks? Do we want to come up and take a look at the drawings? Going once? All right. Thank you very much. Sean, you can turn off the mics. Thank you.